Texarkana, Arkansas. This year's Fall Conference has been great. I hope you've enjoyed your time in Indianapolis. I know the conference has been filled with key takeaways that we can all use to improve our operations. We can certainly take this knowledge back to our telcos. We've got a full schedule this morning with plenty of insights and entertaining perspectives to come. I've been asked to ask you to put your cell phone on stun. I've come to believe this is the work of the devil. Siri and I don't communicate. She bosses me around. She doesn't take any advice that I want to give her. And I pay for that service. And I got to thinking there's places I can get that for free. And so, not that this has anything to do with it, but I took my wife to the Apple store yesterday her picture file was full. And rather than download the file and get, have some more space, we had to get a bigger file. And I know what you're thinking, and none of the pictures in there are of me. So we went down there and I met a guy, and it's easier to go to the doctor than it is the Apple store. I don't know if you've been there lately. But the guy asked me, he said, "So what do you do?" I said, "Well, I work for a telephone company." And he said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "You mean, what's my job?" And he said, "No, what does a telephone company do?" And I said, "Well, we're the people that make your service work." And he said, "What?" And we had this conversation, you can imagine how that went. But anyway, the phone, my wife all of a sudden thinks I'm this fountain of information, and she wants all this information that I don't have. For example, on the way over here, the flight was late, and I'm hooked to the airline somehow, and they call me to tell me the flight's late, even though I already know it's late, but they call and tell me anyway. And so I tell her, the flight's late. And she says, "Well, why is it late?" And I said, "I don't know. It says the flight's late." And said, "Well, is the airplane broken?" "I don't know. It says the flight's late." I said, "Well, is it because they don't have a crew?" I said, "I don't know. It says it's because the flight's late." And she said, "Well, did it come in bad weather?" And I said, "I don't know. It says the flight's late." And she said, "You don't know very much, do you?" I said, "I don't know. It says the flight's late." That's kind of my experience with the phone. And then I don't know if y'all had the spell checker thing happen lately. I left these letters, I haven't got used to all these letters, so I started kind of making up my own letters, like LOL and that stuff. So I typed my wife a note and said, "I left you instead of voicemail, I left you a VM. Well, the thing put in there, BMW. It's done a lot more embarrassing things than that, trust me. But the latest thing that happened was John Clapp called me the other day. Now, my phone's used to a southern accent, not John Clapp's Wisconsin accent. And this new phone I've got, without me asking it, it transcribes the voicemail. In other words, if you don't want to listen to the voicemail, it types it out for you. I've never had that before. So John called me, he missed me, I called him, so he calls back, and it says from John Clapp. And I read this message, and it said, "Hi, beautiful. Call me if you get a second. I'd love to hear from you." And I said, "Well, he must have sent this to his wife, or something." So I go into the phone to listen to the message, and it says, "Hi, Bill. Call me if you get a second. I'd like to hear from you." So I told John about that message. I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, dealing with letters. Welcome to the stage, FRS. I'd like to invite Steve Meltzer, FRS President, and Jessica Golden, FRS Executive Director.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Meltzer, and I am this year's president of NTCA's Foundation for Rural Service, or FRS, your foundation. For all of you that came to our event the other night, we would like to thank you for supporting FRS. We thought it was a great event. There was a lot of competition in the event, and everybody seemed to have a lot of fun during that event. You might remember that about a year ago, OPATSCO's Foundation for Rural Education and Development, formerly known as FRED, of which I sat on the board of for 12 years, acting as the treasurer, became part of NTCA's Foundation for Rural Service. FRED's board members joined forces with FRS, and this year, to represent the combined foundations, we launched a new logo, as well as a new mission and a new vision for FRS. Our mission now states that in conjunction with NTCA, we seek to sustain and enhance the quality of life in America by advancing an understanding of rural issues. Our vision is to harness the power of the rural communications industry to enrich lives in rural America. Now, FRS is your foundation. Everybody needs to be able to utilize that foundation, your foundation, as much as possible to make a difference in your communities, the communities you serve. You are very fortunate to have 19 FRS board members that are extremely passionate about providing opportunities in rural America, and they take their fiduciary responsibilities as board members seriously, working on your behalf. I would like to ask all of the FRS board members that are in the room to stand up and be recognized. Thank you. And they are working very hard, and they're very, very passionate. In addition, you're fortunate to have an extremely talented FRS staff working on your behalf, and I would like to thank Jessica, Annette, and Keith for all that they do for FRS. Please give them a round of applause. They were also very responsible for organizing the event that we had Monday night, which had a lot of competition between the different regions. And it even had mascots here. So we got Mama here. You guys did a good job representing all the different regions. So please give a round of applause to our mascots. They've made this event super great. And I will say that the shark here was 1 for 1 in the free throw contest. He was able to do it. Bob, on the other hand, couldn't even get the ball up there. Those hands are a little bit floppy. But it was a lot of fun, and we certainly hope that you guys will consider coming out to future FRS events. And let's give these guys a round of applause here. Okay, you guys can leave now. or hang back and bother Jessica. All right, well, we did have a very good year together. With snowmen and sharks and princesses and pilots and all kinds of things like that. But moving forward as a unified FRS, we've had a really wonderful year together, an incredible year together, and we look forward to having many, many more great years ahead. There's a number of programs that FRS has that you're aware of, the scholarship programs, the youth tours, the grants that are given out, the papers that are done. So let's talk a little bit about those. For starters, this past May, we were able to give away $150,000 in scholarships to 67 talented rural students. That's $150,000. It's a record number of scholarships for FRS. It included a $7,000 scholarship named after Mr. Everett Neese, who helped start FRED. So there's an Everett Neese scholarship of $7,000. There were 4 individual $5,000 scholarships from the JSI Family Foundation. There was also 2 TMS scholarships at $1,500 each. Winners included a student like Austin Berry, who was sponsored by the Ben Lomond Telephone Cooperative in Tennessee, who with his FRS scholarship is planning on attending Tennessee Tech University to get a degree in agribusiness. And what he really wants to do is work towards improving the production and the profitability on his family farm. But this will also transcend into helping all types of farms out in rural America. Another student, Felicity Manholland of Canadian Valley Telephone in Oklahoma, left such an impression on the telephone company with her application that the owners of Canadian Valley, the Smiths, elected to go to her house and personally tell her that she had won a STEM-focused JSI scholarship. And so they went and delivered the news personally. They brought flowers to her. I mean, they were just so impressed with her skills and that she was able to get that scholarship. This past year alone, FRS received over 1,300 scholarship applications. So there's a need out there, folks. And we can't tell you how much we thank you for your support in getting these scholarships out to these 67 outstanding students that received it. They were very, very well deserving, and they certainly thank you for all your contributions as well. We wish all the recipients of the scholarships the best of luck in the year ahead. Let's talk a little bit about the youth tour that FRS sponsors. So as part of the youth programs, FRS hosted 110 student leaders to Washington, D.C. for our annual FRS World Youth Tour. For the tour, students came to town to learn about the value of rural telecommunications, as well as key leadership skills. They visited Capitol Hill, they visited the FCC, they visited numerous of historical sites, and they participated in the first Student Rural Issues Summit. They addressed rural challenges ranging from job opportunities to substance abuse, and they discussed how broadband could help solve many of those issues that they have back home. I had the opportunity to meet a lot of these students when they visited the United States Capitol, and they met with a lot of congressional staffers. And I can't tell you how impressed I was with the questions that these students asked the staffers and just the interaction that they had. I mean, these guys are really a lot of our future leaders that we have in the industry. FRS also hosted a congressional broadband tour, and this happened last August. So our executive director, Jessica, took 19 folks who work for members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, working for both the House and the Senate, out to rural Wyoming. And these are all folks that work on telecom issues, so they're all familiar with a lot of our issues, but they're not familiar with the areas that we serve, and that's why we have this tour. So she took them out to rural Wyoming for our congressional broadband tour. So FRS, as you may be aware, is a 501c3 organization, and we play a unique role in the industry, and we can act as an educational entity to be able to host trips like these. The broadband tour took these 19 staffers out of Washington, D.C. and into the communities that you serve, allowing your peers out in Wyoming to be able to tell these staffers the stories and the challenges that they have serving in rural America, and answer questions about USF and as to why wireless needs wires. And maybe that guy in the Apple store should have been on the tour too, because he didn't seem to understand why wireless doesn't work without wires. It was an incredible opportunity to be able to educate these congressional leaders. If you happen to run into Don Jackson in your travels from Tri-County, Wyoming, he was also on the tour. Ask him firsthand about how the tour went. He'd love to share some of the stories that he had with these folks. FRS also sponsored a paper that came out that was authored by the Hudson Institute. And this came out last April. And last April, FRS commissioned the paper. And the Hudson Institute is a Washington, D.C. based think tank. And this paper was on the economic impact of rural broadband and of the economic impact of broadband in rural America. And the study found that in 2015, rural broadband companies contributed over $24 billion to the national economy. I mean, that's a lot that is being contributed from the rural areas to the national economy. The message that this paper gave and the data that is in this paper is really essential to communicating our overall message that the success of rural America is essential to the national economy. If you've not checked out the paper, I highly recommend that you do so. There's copies of it at the FRS booth. Or at the very least, take a look at the infographic that FRS has at their booth. It really is important to the policymakers that we have that are out there for them to be able to see this. FRS also produces a number of other helpful materials on everything from distance education to smart agriculture. If you or your company see a venue for these materials, please reach out to some of the FRS staff. They'd be happy to get you copies of these materials. And the last program I want to mention is the FRS grant program. Last year, FRS announced 4 winners of our grant awards, including 2 focusing on telehealth. If the communities that you serve could use an extra bump in funding, please have them look into the FRS grant program. It costs you nothing. It costs the community nothing to apply, and it really can help differentiate how you serve your customers in the community by assisting them with the ability to apply for some of these grants. So in closing, I'd just like to mention again how hard the FRS board and the FRS staff work every day to keep rural America at the table, to help you differentiate you from your competitors out there. We could not do that without your support. I'd like to see how many folks here were folks that previously contributed to FRED, where the path goes on. So anybody that previously contributed to FRED, would you please raise your hands? So we've got a few out there, great. How about today? How many people out here are FRS donors? Excellent. Well, we really, really support you. Can we get a round of applause for all the FRS donors that are out there? Thank you for supporting the rural communities. Every donation that you make as an individual or a company makes a difference, and it makes all of our programs possible. So before I pass the floor over to Jessica, FRS's Executive Director, I'd like to show you a short video.
The foundation plays a really unique role in the industry.
What FRS is doing in the advocacy area is very important.
It's wonderful taking these urban Hill staffers out to an area they've never been before and have them realize how different it really is.
And see what their dollars are doing and how important it is that we deliver broadband to these, most of the time, very rural and also very economically challenged areas.
FRS, we're about making the nation a stronger, more sustainable nation as a whole. And our mission is to work in cooperation with NTCA to seek to sustain and enhance the quality of life in America by advancing an understanding of rural issues.
The things that go on with FRS actually have a national impact. A lot of the programs are geared to the rural community. They're providing a lot of educational opportunities for young students, an opportunity to visit Washington, D.C.
See the various historical sites and everything, and really kind of get a sense of what makes America tick.
My favorite part of FRS is the grant program, where we fund projects
to help make improvements in communities that they might not otherwise be able to do.
The education process for our lawmakers and their staffs, the way we educate in our communities with the youth, all that comes together in a nationwide footprint.
We face many challenges today as an industry and as a community of rural Americans.
I personally think there's a huge educational divide in this country, and by being able to participate and help bridge that gap, I think it's just critically important for all of us. And so the scholarships are really near and dear to our heart.
I have seen the kids who actually get the scholarships, and it's been very worthwhile, and they're very appreciative. It makes a big difference in their lives.
I mean, as far as we know, the next Mark Zuckerberg would be coming from a rural community. We have no idea if they didn't have access to broadband.
We all know that broadband is the lifeblood of every business, every person's life these days, and how important it is to bring broadband to rural America.
Rural America is still America. Those folks that are there wanting to be a part of the mainstream, they want to be able to see the television shows and the content and communicate just like they do in the big cities. And you know what? Those people populate our military, they put food on our tables, and they're the backbone of our societies.
Our investment in our communities, both the soft investment from FRS and the hard investment from what we invest in our broadband networks, makes innovation possible anywhere.
Rural America is worth investing in.
It is us giving back to our communities.
And this is a tremendous vehicle to give back, not just locally, with local youth that you sponsor a little youth tour, not just with educational things and grants for people in difficult situations, but it's a way to impact our whole country in the way telecommunications is used and perceived and move forward.
If you're considering donating, think about the value of the money that you're putting forward, right? It's a very small amount, but if you take looking at the entire membership, just give a little bit, dip their toe in the water, we can do some really powerful things.
A stronger rural America leads to a stronger nation.
How about that? That's your foundation, Foundation for Rural Service. And now I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Jessica Golden.
Well, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Doing all right? All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you in this room who contributes to FRS, whether as an individual or as a company, whether you sponsor our events, participate in our programs, or utilize our materials. We could not do what we do without your support. And now I don't know if you've noticed lately, I feel like there's been a lot of negative, toxic talk in our country. And many of our communities are facing challenges like declining populations. And the fact that on average, 1 in 3 rural hospitals is at risk of closing. But you know, this past year, my first year with FRS, I've had the honor of getting to travel across the country and meet with many of you, from Kentucky and Tennessee, to Georgia, Wyoming, Alaska, Utah. And my conversations have taught me many things, but most of all of the incredible things that you are doing in your companies and your communities. And so I have just one thing to say to these challenges and to this toxic, negative talk. Bring it on. As Thomas Edison once said, opportunities are missed by most people because they are dressed in overalls and look like work. Well, folks, we here at FRS, as a staff, as a board, and as a team, are here to work. We are here to work to make rural America a stronger, more vibrant place than ever before. We are here to work to keep rural America at the table. But we can't do it without your support. And besides contributing, help your community emphasize the need for economic development by looking into our grant program. Invest in your next generation of rural leaders by utilizing our scholarships. Take our materials, like our paper on the economic impact of rural broadband, to your policymakers to showcase the valuable impact you have, not just on your local community, not just on your state, but on a national scale. As Steve said, we are your foundation. Use us, and together we can work to make our communities stronger and more vibrant than ever. So, together, I'd like to challenge us to challenge these negative and toxic environments that we've been put in, and to say together, bring it on. I believe in us. I believe that rural America has incredible opportunities and a bright future ahead of us. And I believe that everyone in this room believes that too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But it is going to take work. It is going to take innovation. It is going to take collaboration. And it is going to take investment. Thank you for all that you do for your communities every single day. Thank you for all that you do for all rural communities by investing in and supporting the Foundation for Rural Service. And if you don't already, I ask you today to consider donating to the Foundation for Rural Service. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your time, and safe travels back home.